Paul Reed, stay or go. Tobias Harris, who do you blame for his struggles?
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Hello, my name is Keith Pompey, and this is my right-hand man, John Mitchell. We are the co-hosts of Locked On 76ers. We got a lot to talk about today. First of our segment, we're going to talk about Paul Reed. Stay or go. Make a case for him. Make a case for him to leave. Second segment, who do you blame for Tobias Harris's struggles? Third segment is we got to talk. What's the segment without talking about Joel Embiid? Seems like Dwight Howard has been yapping about him needing to lose weight. I shouldn't say yapping, but he was just talking about that and this and that. So we'll talk about that. We'll give our opinion. But it just seems funny that everybody and their mom is an expert now on what Joel Embiid needs to do. So it's crazy. But Mitch, Paul Reed had a career year this year. Had averaged the most points, rebounds, minutes played. He started several games for Joel Embiid. Dude was balling. But in the playoffs, he struggled to a point where they just start attacking him. A lot of the stuff is he came out and said, this is the easier team to play, the team we wanted. And then the Knicks took it personal. And the crazy part is Paul Reed signed a 3-year, $23.5 million contract last summer. We all thought the brother was getting paid, excited for him. And then the only thing was you had to make the second round. So you think, okay, so if he makes the second round,
which they always do.
Which they always do. So you think like, oh, that's easy peasy. My man about to get paid.
Yep.
Well, they didn't make the second round. So Paul Reed's second and third year are non-guaranteed, which makes it a great tradable contract.
Right.
Which makes it a great contract to just get rid of if you can trade it, right? With all that said, do you keep him? And do you think, I got two questions. A, do you keep him? B, do you think, if it was your opinion, would you keep him? B, do you think the 76ers will keep him?
I think you keep him if it makes sense for the franchise, that's the bottom line. He did demonstrate when he got more playing time, his time went from 10, almost 11 minutes to 19 minutes. He doubled his rebounding numbers, close to it, went from 3.8 to 6.0. He scored more points. He was more effective. I kind of thought that they misused Paul Reed a little bit in the playoffs. Playing against a team, playing against the Knicks, they're lunch pail team. Let's call it what they are. It's Brunson and a whole bunch of construction workers. When I said that's a compliment. I would even like,
I know what I know what you're saying.
Not to slight.
Back in the day, they coal. They would be coal miners.
They would be coal miners, man. They would have
they coal miners.
And but and not to slight them, because if you get me a 6'5", 6'4" guy like Josh Hart that's gonna go out and bang for 14 boards a night, put him on my team. But Paul Reed, what is Paul Reed's ceiling? Paul Reed, I think Paul Reed is a guy who can give you, I think he's almost there, Keith. I think he's almost at his ceiling. I think he's an energy guy. in a league that is now putting less value on energy players. The league is putting value on guys his height need to be able to shoot the three better. Do you if it warrants moving him and it will make the franchise better? And I mean, theoretically that's what you make all moves for, to make the franchise better. I would move him. What I like about Paul Reed is I know that he works to get better. You know, I know he pushes himself. I think he's a guy you're going to get the most out of his talents. You know, he's not a guy, you know, who's just going to flame out on you, or who's going to quit. I mean, and you know, in the NBA, we have guys, no matter what their salary, will quit at all levels. So, you know, stay or go. He's part of a process of making this team better. Is Paul Reed? He could be collateral damage, because you have to make the squad better. You have to do what you think as a general manager, team president, ownership, that will make the franchise better. And if he has to go, if something is there but more enticing that gives you more opportunities to get better, than you move it. You know, I'm not married to Paul Reed. You know, I'm not locked in on Paul Reed. But I like Paul Reed a lot, because I know when you look down the lineup, and again, I thought they missed. You know, he's going to give you something, and I think that they misused him. You know, the series was decided by 1 point. You know, who knows? Maybe he could have gotten a few offensive rebounds here and would have gotten you over some of those games where you were crushed on the boards.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. When I look at Paul Reed, I look at Chris Boucher from
It's a good comparison.
Yeah, from Toronto. So you look at, okay, so Tobias, we second segment, we're going to talk about what went wrong with the Tobias thing. Tobias Harris ain't coming back. Like, unless there's like a big change or the Sixers can't get anything and Tobias is willing to take less, let's take it. Tobias ain't coming back. So
Right.
when you look at it, you look at a guy like Paul Reed, who basically in his minutes on the floor with Joel Embiid, I'm not saying he's a starter, but with his minutes on the floor with Joel Embiid playing center, Albert, they were like limited minutes. He played well.
Yeah.
You look at Paul Reed, you look at him, he was a power forward in college. You know, he was a small forward in high school. So he's not a center. Like, they got him playing center,
Right.
but he's not a center. I see him with the way that the 76ers are playing right now, or the way that their roster will, the way that they are losing people. If it was me, I'd say I want Nico Batum to come back as my starting power forward. Unless I can get something upgrade in free agency. And I want Paul Reed to come back as my backup forward, right? Where he can come in and play in junk lineups. He can do a lot of different things. He could be a Chris Boucher for me. And the thing is, Nick Nurse was a huge fan of his in the beginning of the season. He raved over him last offseason. He just wanted to utilize him.
Right.
But I feel like he just played out of position, like you said. I don't think he's a center. I think he's an energy guy. Now, again, like you said, there's not too many energy guys out there, right? Like there used to be. Yeah, like that.
Sorry.
But at the same time, you can use one, and you can have a guy that does certain things. But I feel like when he was out there with Embiid, he enabled Embiid to play like in the high post, do some other things, and he was just grabbing rebounds, defending, stuff like that. You know, he's just an undersized center in the league now, where the centers are getting bigger. And before, it was a time where they were small dudes, but now you look at Wemby, you look at all these other guys, the dude at OKC, they're all long, athletic. They can do things, and they're going downhill and attacking them. Like the Knicks, Mitchell Robbins, and then you had Harkenstein. They were both 7-footers, right?
Isaiah.
Yeah, Isaiah. So it's just tough for him. It's just really tough for him to do things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like he's a power forward.
And the one thing you did point out, I'd like to see him do more. I mean, it was something I wanted to see Tobias do more of, but I'm not the coach, because Joel plays so high in a post, which is freakish to me that he does that. You know, sometimes your opportunities are if you play underneath, because Joel will find you if you make the right cut. You know what I mean? He will find you if you make the right cut to the basket.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
But right now, I want to, and we'll talk a little bit about more about Joel, Paul Reed, and of course our man Tobias Harris in the next segment. But right now, I want to ask the question: what is PrizePicks? PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Look at the NBA playoffs, man. They're hot right now. The Denver Nuggets are surging. Look at that as right there. You can get on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during the basketball season. All right. You can win up to 10 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball and hockey. So as I would say, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA for first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA for first deposit match up to $100. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on the YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Every single day.
Yeah, and every day this is going to be a topic too. Right about now, everybody's going to talk about Tobias and what went wrong with Tobias Harris. Now, here's the thing: like, I think there's two things. I think that partly Tobias Harris needed to be a little bit more aggressive, right? Secondly, I think Tobias got into a situation where he thought that it was going to be different. Like, and let's face it, you're the guy that's making 180. You're at one point, seriously, at one point, his contract was the most lucrative contract in 76ers history until Joel Embiid surpassed it. He was the highest paid player on the roster up until this season. Like, I'm talking about, or was it this season or last season? Yeah, I believe this season. Like when Joel surpassed him, right? So here's the deal. You come here, you're getting paid like an all-star. Mm-hmm. People expect you to be an all-star.
Yeah.
But at the same time, your role isn't to be an all-star. You're at best the third option, right? So at one point, you had Ben Simmons who had the ball in his hand. You had Joel, this and that, and then you. Now, here's the crazy part. Like when we look at it, when they had that, yesterday was the anniversary of the 4 bounce thing, 5-year anniversary. But people got upset. But
and let's not forget the travel that preceded that.
Yeah, it was a travel. Yeah, it was a travel. Let's not forget the defensive lapse too. The guy gave him the play too. You know what I mean? So it was a lot of things. But so here's the deal. When you look at that team and you say to yourself, of the 5 starters at that particular time, because Ben Simmons just basically took himself out of the offense, right? Mm-hmm. Because Jimmy Butler had the ball in his hand. Tobias was basically the 4th option.
Yeah.
The 4th or 5th option. But you don't sign Jimmy Butler. You do the sign and trade. You didn't want to keep him. He didn't want to stay. You do the sign and trade. JJ Redick, which for the life of me, they didn't want to keep either, right? And then so all of a sudden, Tobias is left, and you got to pay him because you gave up so much for him. You had to pay him. And then all of a sudden, and then if not, you didn't pay him. He was going to go elsewhere and get a max.
Right.
I mean, that's just how it was.
Yeah.
But you bring him back, and then all of a sudden, everybody think it's going to be a big three. It's never really a big three, dude. It's always one dude who has to suffer. Look at the Miami Heat. It was, who was it? It was Chris Bosh. It was Dwayne Wade. It was LeBron James.
Yeah.
Chris Bosh had to become a role player. Look
Yeah.
at the Boston Celtics. It was KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. What happened? Ray Allen became a role player.
A
So,
role player.
as a, huh?
That
That was a hell of a role player. But what he do? He was in the corner hitting threes. But that was his game, right? So then you look at Tobias, and it's like, oh, you got to be a role player,
right?
But the thing is, it just didn't work out. But I feel like he needed to be a little bit more aggressive too.
He did. Yeah, he did need to be a little more aggressive. I mean, sometimes the stars align for you to get your money. The 76ers, and it hadn't fully come to fruition yet, were coming off what were two calamitously bad choices at number one, Markelle Fultz and
Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons, Lord. Yeah, so those are two calamitously bad decisions. One of them hadn't really yet played itself out. Ben Simmons, we didn't know that Ben Simmons was going to quit. And so, he got that money, and, that Jimmy walked out the door. Jimmy probably would have quite possibly would have had him a championship by now. So he was, if you can manipulate the market to your best interest and to your benefit, you have to do that, because let's never forget these guys are all independent contractors, man. It's a team, but it's always, how can I maximize what I can get? And when they rolled that contract out in front of him, his eyes had to be like, man, they really think this highly of me. And remember, when the Sixers, when he came to Philadelphia, he was considered to be, they're like, yeah, this guy can shoot the three-pointer. He can do a lot of things. But, at best, he's now, that contract is over. We'll see what the market yields for him. At best, he's your fourth or fifth guy. The taste is really bad in your mouth. But I also would encourage fans, if you want to build a championship, sometimes you got to swallow your pride. If you can bring him back on a reasonable deal, very reasonable deal, and you have to get beyond the fact that he only averaged 9 points per game in the in that series in the playoffs. That's going to be hard for people to move on from, and I understand that, man. They got no matter what Tobias says, no matter what he was misutilized in the playoffs, the one thing Tobias Harris did do was he tucked his tail in the New York series. He tucked his tail, man. And again, we all love Tobias. We wish all NBA players modeled themselves as people after Tobias Harris, because of what he does in the community, what he does from a philanthropic standpoint. But at the end of the day, you can make your donation to his organizations, but you do that because you want that player to stand up. You want him to play with some oomph. And he just, his performance in that last game was completely, it was inexcusable. It was like, Tobias, step up a little bit, get a foul. He couldn't even get a foul. So
yeah, the problem, that thing that messed him up was the Kelly Oubre, and this is what I mean by that, because it's hard to argue, because you're not getting the ball, but it's hard to argue that when you see how Kelly Oubre was moving without the ball.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Now, granted, I get it. You're like, yo, I'm supposed to be the star. I'm supposed to be the man, and then all of a sudden they went away from me. I understand all that, but at the same time, you can't complain about only getting 2 shots when you have 4 assists. So that tells me you passed the ball up at least 4 times, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at least 4 times you passed the ball up, at least 4. So it is what it is. So I mean, again, he's a great player, a good. He's a great teammate. Yeah, he's a great teammate. He's a very good player. He plays the right way, but sometimes you got to be selfish, and this lack of being selfish is what really destroyed him. So there you go. There you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that absolutely killed him, Keith. It absolutely killed him. And we'll talk about, we may continue that conversation a little further moving forward when we get back, but we're also going to talk about some things that Dwight Howard said over the weekend about Joel Embiid, some things that were echoed here. And we'll probably just toss around a few other things that are going on with this team as, they prepare for the offseason and the draft. But right now, let's talk about one of our sponsors, great sponsor, FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So visit fanduel.com/locked on and make every playoff shot count. Again, fanduel.com/locked on. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Do it
Today, people.
Do it with some urgency.
So here's the thing, like, my man, what's his name? Dwight Howard. I'm talking about what's his name? Dwight Howard is the latest guy to say, hey, Joel Embiid needs to shed some LBs. If he does that, his knee problems will go away. And when you look at it, there is some truth to that. I mean, a lot of truth to that. I mean, you look at Karl Anthony Towns, who had the same injury, but Karl Anthony Towns is a whole lot weighs less than Joel, and he's moving fine, comparable to the way Joel looked. So my thing to you is, well, what's your thoughts on? It seems like everybody and their mom coming out now talking about this is what Joel needs to do. This is what Joel needs to do, and they're going to continue saying that. But what's your thoughts on it?
Man, I'm in total agreement with it, man. I preface it by saying Joel Embiid is not fat. I preface my position by saying Zion Williamson is not fat. However, it's a game of pounding. I mean, we remember seeing guys like, the back goes, the hip goes, the knees go. What's Joel had like 5 surgeries now? I think and some of the things that Dwight Howard added to his comment, I mean, he wasn't critical at all. He pointed out that he had lost 30 pounds. I guess it was, at some point when he was with the Lakers. And Dwight Howard's comments were the same comments we've echoed, and everybody who knows a scintilla of basketball is saying the same thing. Dwight Howard said he's too big. I think he's too heavy for the wear and tear of the NBA. I think if he loses about 20 pounds, it will be great for his knees and his health. He'll be able to play a couple years longer. He'll be faster. If he loses that weight, he'll be more mobile. It will be smart. Keith, I can't argue with him, man. I can't argue. I mean, if he's going to want an extension, he has to do something to give the team. Okay, yes, he's fortunate in that he's so great at a base level, but he can be so much greater. He can get out of the second round if he's healthy. When they say your best ability is availability. He's never, ever available at full strength when they need him. So where do you place some of the blame for them not getting out of the second round? You place it squarely on the best player from a skill standpoint, arguably in the world, because everybody's good at the professional level. Everybody is elite. When you hear people say this person is not a good athlete in the NBA, tell them shut the hell up, because the NBA is everybody is an athlete. Everybody is good. Everybody is talented. What takes you from an elite performer in the NBA to a mega elite? Remember how Michael Jordan used to lift weights after the Pistons beat him up?
Yeah,
he didn't need to lose weight. Tim Duncan went basically vegan and lost that weight, and watched guys like Patrick Ewing their weight continue to rise. You will preserve your body, and you'll extend yourself and make yourself better for the team that you want to give you $195 million. Well, they take some risk. They take all the risk. And if you're not going to be available for them, you're really not worth it to them. You are, if we're being honest, you're not worth it to them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I agree with you, but I think a lot of it, and I'm gonna take up for Joel a little bit, just a little bit,
With
because
just a touch of love.
no. See, here's the problem. See, the problem is, and we're gonna go back to Ben Simmons when you said, Ben Simmons was a bad first overall draft pick, right?
Horrific.
I mean, right? You said
he fooled us all.
He fooled us all. But see, the thing is, it's kind of like how you with an organization, and at that particular time, is okay to not work on your game in the offseason. Like, yeah, you want to, huh? Or it's okay for you to not. It's okay for your weight to keep fluctuating. Culture. So that's what you know what I mean. So I'm saying this. It's kind of like the culture did it to him. I mean,
you're absolutely right.
If Joel Embiid would have went to a different team, if Joel Embiid was drafted by the Spurs, Joel Embiid would be a 3-time MVP and probably a champion. If Joel Embiid went somewhere else,
might be a Sixer,
huh?
And Wembanyama might be a Sixer.
But I'm just saying, like, it's about culture, man. It's about like when they came in, they didn't really have like the vets that they had. Like they had to go get Elton, but the vets that they had was dudes who was in the tail end of their career. Half the time they weren't even around, right? And they were just trying to get paid. Like, I mean, think about it. They were Gerald Wallace. They traded for Gerald Wallace. He never even walked in the building. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like it was just crazy. So it was like there was nobody to tell them this is what you need to do. And there was nobody pushing the buttons, nobody doing this, nobody doing that. So what happens? You gain weight. You on it before 90 minutes before the game, you outside. I mean, you on the court getting your feet massaged, eating a cheeseburger, right? Like stuff like that, man. Like I'm telling you, it was the culture. It's the culture. And that's what hurt him. Yeah, the culture hurt him. That's what it was. And the same with Ben Simmons. I mean, I remember after Ben Simmons' rookie year. Now, first of all, the back injury also impacted Ben too. But the reason why the back injury really hindered him is because he never worked on his game. But I remember after his rookie year, and he struggled to shoot the ball.
I know you're going with this.
And I'm like, I'm on a radio show, and Ben is saying how he going to go home and work hard and all this and that, how they going to send people out there working on him. So I'm on a radio show, and I'm like, yeah, man, he's working hard on his shot. I fully expect him to have his shot back. I fully expect this. I fully expect that. They got all these videos out there of him working on his shot, all this and that. He come back, same old Ben. And then I later found out all them certain videos that were taken in these photos, half of them was taken at the same day, right? But they were just like putting them out like different times, making you think that, but my thing is, how does that happen? How does it happen when you're supposed to work out and you're like, nah, I ain't working out today? So
how does that happen when your brother was working on your shooting with you?
Well, that's because your brother shouldn't have been working with your shooting with you.
Right, it's close.
If you want to be honest, you know what I mean? Your brother shouldn't have been there. Your brother, come on, man. Come on, man.
Bro, it's like, bro, I'm tired. I'm paying your salary, bro, and you're my brother.
And I love his brother was nice. His brother was a nice guy. Liam was great. But here's the deal. You had a renowned shooting coach in John Townsend, a guy who made you a better three-throw shooter. Right. He was shooting good in that playoff series. So it's like, all right, we good. We don't need you no more. See, the problem is with the NBA, everybody trying to get these teams around them so they can get everybody paid. You get people on the plane. Like it's just like a star player saying, yo, hire my security guard. So what he going to do is when we off the clock, he with me, but he
Right.
worked for the team. That way
Right.
you get on. So it was the culture. The culture did it. The
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
But look, y'all.
You get away
We
with too
want.
many winks, and you get away with too many winks and nods in that organization.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, and that's the problem. That was the problem, and that's why we talking about Joel Wade, and that's why Ben Simmons is going to go down as a bust after being a 3-time All-Star,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on the Amazon Fire TV and the Free Fire TV channel app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts on Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the Free Fire TV channel app. Hey, this is Keith, my man Mitch. We want to thank y'all for listening. Come back tomorrow. We'll have some more stuff to talk to you about. Another stay or go. So we'll break that down. Maybe we should talk about DeAnthony Melton. All right. And maybe
I
we
like
should
that.
talk about him.
I like that.
Talk about him. So we'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Peace, people.